Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Welcome back to Off the Clock Conversations with Lili and Lauren. How's it going, Lauren?
It's pretty good. I've been doing a really intense puzzle. Let me just show you. This is what I've been working on. Right now, just a pile of puzzle pieces, but
Why are you and Charles torturing yourselves?
I love it.
Oh.
I feel like the most mindful when I'm like doing puzzles. It's just a weird obsession.
Actually, when people ask me about therapy, the way I
Yeah.
describe it is that I'm doing a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels like doing
Yeah.
therapy, especially behavioral work or stuff like that. It's like a puzzle piece.
Oh yeah, you're just trying to find the right piece that hooks in the right place for all the other things.
Yeah. And then you tell them how to look or like the skill or live within their value. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about values
Yeah.
today.
I feel like they're the like what makes the puzzle pieces stick.
I think so too. So what are values, Lauren?
So I love the way that they talk about this in the dialectical behavior therapy manual because they talk to them about like ways that we want to live in the world. They're not goals, they can't be achieved, but they're just the way that we want to be. And so, of course, it's going to evolve over time, but how we want to be in the world. And there are different kind of areas of them. So there's like family relationships, um, success, achievement. There are different types of values that we can hold. And thinking about the how we want to live them out in our lives. And when you were like, I don't know, in high school, achievement and success probably look different than it does now. Like
Yeah.
achievement and success in high school was like getting invited to the teen center dance by a very attractive young person. And it is no longer a success and achievement to be invited to a high school dance by a high schooler. Like
Yeah,
we've got definitely not.
definitely not. That would be illegal anyways, and just not even appropriate. Like, just
Yeah.
no, no,
Yeah.
not in my values, actually, at all. But I love
Yeah.
it, and that
Opposite.
I love that you bring it up because even in like if anyone that listens to this podcast that's in high school, like even in high school, like my value was to be a very successful basketball player
Yeah.
to the point and putting I won't name my high school, but putting my high school on blast. Like I was a scholarship kid because of basketball. Like I got a scholarship to a private school, which meant I had some of almost most of my grades handed to me. So the only value I had, and then I had a best friend who really valued studying and really wanted to be a studious person versus I was in the gym. We all have specific values in certain parts of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as like for me being in my 30s, another example, in my 20s, didn't really care value. Money wasn't necessarily a value. Traveling, being with my friends and family was a big value.
Yeah.
Certain like being successful in my career, but I didn't really think of success in such a like different. It was just like I just want to be good at my job.
Yeah. I just want to have a job. That was like the bar was really different at different points in time.
Yeah. So
What
what happens? Why I would want to say why do values change? But I think it's a pretty straightforward answer, but let's ask that question. Why do values change?
because we change. Because at different points in our lives, different things are important.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about what was most important to me when I was like 16, what was most important to me when I was 26, and now that I'm in my 30s, of just how much has changed. And I used to value fun and the most above all else. When I was like 16, like
Mm-hmm.
what was fun for me was I was really obsessed with Paramore. This is dating me. Obviously, I wasn't 16. I
I
wasn't 16.
support this, Lauren. I love this, Lauren.
I was obsessed. My kind of only thing I wanted in life was to get a signed sweatshirt by Paramore.
Oh my
That was
God.
it. That was my goal. I had achieved something. And it's so funny thinking about that now. Like I did get that. That did happen. They came to the teen center in Connecticut, and I got my jacket signed by Paramore. It was the
Oh,
greatest day of my life.
dreams
Obviously,
do come true.
yeah, obviously until I married Charles. Um, but
You can't say when
um,
you want it to come true. You just
yes,
believe and it'll come true.
yes. And but now I think about like career and like other things as really kind of taking precedence over that. And of course, a lot of these things are integrated. Like I could never have a career where I didn't actually like it. And I don't like stalking bans on social media or something. Like that's not really, the social media was MySpace. So stalking bans on MySpace is no longer a thing for me, not just because MySpace is dead.
Yeah. Well, doesn't exist.
Yeah. So for me, like values change because I've changed, the circumstances have changed in my life. Like what is the most important value for you right now?
Honestly, right now, it's family.
Yeah.
Right now, my most important value is family. Second to that is the success and financial. And then third to that is financial. And my success, my value within my success is really like actually providing very good care and like
Yeah.
doing, like loving my job and doing good at it. So having that, both of those two go within that, and then comes
Yeah.
money. But the reason it's family, I think, because like Adriel and I just got married, what, 2 months ago, almost. Oh,
Mhm.
holy crap! It's only been 2 months. um, and it's like I think we went through this phase while we were in a relationship and we were engaged and all of that. But the phase where you start like realizing like both your families are your family, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard because like one, we're like Middle Eastern, they're Hispanic and Dutch, like Dutch. So like the cultures are a little bit different. So then how we live is a little, how we grew up is different. Even if the cultures weren't different, every family grows up differently. And then personalities are very different. And then obviously in every family you have like loud personalities, and every personality has a flaw in it because everyone has flaws in their perspective. But then I think for me and for Adriel, we communicate so often about how to ensure that in our mindset everyone is our family. Like
Yes.
it's not the in-law, it's the family. Does
Hmm.
that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a much, the way that you see family is much broader
Yeah.
than, it's not just like we're blood related through like this line, through this
Yeah.
lineage. It's, yeah, it's a much broader. And I think that's so much of who you are. I think that one of the things that I always say about you, Lily, is like, I was thinking back to this time I stayed at your apartment, had to be like, I don't know, maybe like 8 years ago or something. I stayed at your apartment and I was like saying like Lily's like kind of like no questions asked friend. She's like, I just remember like it was like maybe a couple years after I had left Clearview, I stayed at your apartment and I woke up to like Turkish coffee in the morning and you were just like, you just opened your home to me in this way that was like no questions asked. I think I had like texted you at like 8 p.m. the night before being like, is it cool if I crash at your place? And
I
you were like,
remember.
of course.
You were literally like, hey, I'm gonna be there for like 8 hours between flights. What are you doing? I was like, come to my house. And you're like, are
Yeah.
you sure? And I was like, I'll pick you up from the airport. Of course. What do you mean? Where else? Well, of course, come to my house.
And it was one of those things like I can so see that as your like kind of core value because I was like, yeah, Lily's like one of the only people I know who just be like, no questions asked. Of course, you're here. Like, read me my fortune with the Turkish coffee.
Did it come true?
I don't remember how that ended up. But I feel like that's so true. It was like one of my like favorite stories about you because it was something like just so clear about who you are as a person and your values.
Ew.
And I think it's so interesting how like how that definition of family changes, what may have been like and how it may have been very narrow when we, like, I don't know, when we grew up, I feel like my first like 10 years of life, my sister was trying to convince me that we weren't family.
My siblings said they found me in a trash can, and I believed it for a very long time. This is like, I want to say it's traumatic, but it's not. It's become humorous that I believe them. Like,
No, but that's how you know you have an older sibling. It's like, did you think that you were adopted out of a trash can for 6 years?
and you know the worst part, when I went to Shiva, my mom, and I'd be like, did you find me in the trash can? My mom would be like, yeah, of course. It was the neighbor and I found you together. Mom, you're not supposed to be in on it.
Part of the joke. But so tell me, like, now, how do you enact that value? How do you live that through other than taking in like stray coworkers?
Is well, to be fair, you've been my friend. So
I
once
know. I was also straight at the moment.
once you go into the category of a person that I love, whether you love me the same way or not, like it doesn't matter to me.
Mhm.
I think with this whole situation, it really has been interesting because it's it's so funny. I was talking to Adriel about it because I was like, dude, like one, I think it's within women, this competition
Yeah.
thing,
Mhm.
right? Because I was like, do you guys do it? Like, do you guys compete with our fathers? And he's like, we really don't. Like, we're very simple. Like no one cares. Where for me, I'm like, and I love my mother a lot. I really do. She's an
Yeah.
amazing human being. And then there are moments where like she's talking to her son that she gave birth to and she raised, right? And he has a beautiful relationship with his mom. So he like calls his mom for advice. And then sometimes she gives advice where in my mind, it's really good advice. But for a split second, I'm like, why? Like, and then I have to stop myself and be like, why? Why are you even having a reaction to her conversation with her son? Which is really like that's a beautiful thing. That's a good thing. Like if you
Yeah.
have a child, so it's really intentionally being mindful of those little moments where
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't like it. And then I have to ask myself, why don't you
Yeah.
like it? Why are you uncomfortable with it? And then it's like, okay, well, I feel like it's a really stupid. I'm going to say this. I'm going to be judgmental of it, but I'm like, I feel like she's like taking him away from me. And then I'm like, it's his mother.
But I think sometimes like we have this kind of old tape of like love is somehow a zero sum game. Like if you
Yeah.
like there's only a max amount of connection that you can have. And so sometimes it's like those competing values of not losing the things that we have.
Yeah.
And then there's family, and you're like, no, I think that there's a little bit more room than I think.
Yeah, but I think one of the things I do is I really intentionally, my mom is always going to be my mother, obviously, because it's
Yeah.
different, right? But intentionally, I work hard to make my perception of his mom also as a mother that loves me and get
Yes.
to know her personality. And just like my mom annoys me, allowing myself to be annoyed, but still love her the same way I love my mom. Just like my siblings are the same exact way, and his siblings are the same.
Yeah.
So we all get to make mistakes. We all get
Mhm.
to be flawed. Every system has its own, like we go through our waves of hurt and discomfort and all of that. But at the end of the day, you're always going to love your family. And in my mind, I make sure I call them my family as much as I can.
Yes.
And I don't say in-law, I say my brother, my friend, my family. So I've been working really hard, which we were talking about that today because we were both like, it's so interesting how you have to work for some of your values to make sure you still act within them.
Mhm. Oh, yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What's
Yes.
one of your values that you're working on?
So I'm really working on, I'm trying to figure out what exactly to call it. I don't know if I think maybe it's authenticity and like integrity, like, and I think the way that when I describe it, I think it'll make maybe more sense. But I was thinking a lot about the way that I talk to myself around my body. and thinking about, I'm sure there's a whole podcast in here about body image and being like an AFAB person, but I was thinking about like kind of living my truth and like being authentic and making sure that the things that I believe, that I'm showing up with them both for myself and for other people.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about, whenever I think about like how I feel about myself, which is sometimes like in conflict to how I feel about other people, like I feel like I'm more harsh with myself than I am with other people.
Yeah.
I think about how would I explain what I said to myself to my niece.
Mm,
And so I've been thinking a lot about like the body that I'm in, not the body that I want to be in or the body that I was once in.
yeah.
And
Ooh,
it's really hard. Like,
the body that I was once in, because that,
yeah, it hits hard, especially like, your body changes as you age. And it's definitely been hard to like be like, okay, this is how I look right now in my life. And it's not always easy. Like, some days are harder than others, but on a hard day when I'm like, I hate the way that I look.
yeah.
And if my niece were to ask me why, and I was like, I don't like the way my, stomach looks in 2024,
Mm,
because in 2016 it looked this way. I would never tell her that.
yeah.
I would never say that. Never be like, you know what, your arm looked better when you were 3. I do that. Like I wouldn't think about bodies in that way. So when I'm thinking about being authentic to my beliefs, which is like I believe that like I want to have like gratitude for the body I'm in, the things that it does for me, and really kind of aim for like a body neutrality. Like I'm never gonna be like, like running around being like, I love this body, like, like really like kind of excited. Maybe I don't know, not
Yeah,
today.
man.
But like, yeah, that this is my body and I think it's fucking awesome that I can like, like go to Pilates or whatever it is that my body's doing, or making a lot of hand gestures. So I can be like kind of excited about that and not kind of fixate on, well, I think in 2014 I was this number. Like this is the weight I was at. So I've been trying to think about it, and like when I have a, thought about myself, being able to then think about, well, what would I tell like my niece? Would I say, my body has to actually look different than it is? Or would I say like my body does awesome things for me every day?
I think this is because it's interesting. What I'm gonna ask you is, what is the value of changing your language with yourself around your body? What's the value within that for you?
I was trying to think about what it is, like, because I believe this is what I believe about bodies in general. I just don't apply it to myself.
Yeah.
And so I was like, is it being authentic? Is it being compassionate, or um, having gratitude? Like, I feel like there are a few different things in there, and I'm not sure exactly what's highest, but I want to like, this is obviously stuff I talk to clients about all day. And I'm like, it'd be quite hypocritical if that I went home and I was like, well, that doesn't apply to you, motherfucker.
No, and I think this is the thing where one of the things that I've known you since 2015. And by the way, I was doing one of our Instagram marketing and I realized I was like, holy shit, like technically it's 2014. So technically it's been 10 years.
I know.
Wow. And then I saw a picture of us from 2015 when you were going to New York to become a doctor. And I wrote at the bottom, Mom, don't leave us a 4-star for this. But I was like, this bitch is leaving me to go become a doctor.
That's amazing. We have to post that.
I know, right? But I was like, I actually am gonna post it next time. But one of the things that I'll say from you and who you were, and when we used to have these conversations back in the day with our dogs,
Yeah.
I remember one of the things about you that you always live within that value is of you're very accepting. You're an accepting human being of anyone and everyone. It's just, I think that's the piece where you're like, I want to live within that value now
Yeah.
for myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's so true. I hadn't thought of it as acceptance, but I think that's what it is, of like kind of accepting myself as I am right now, as
Yeah.
I would anyone else. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And it's been something that I've been like, I think that's something that's evolved, I think, at different stages in time of my life, of like having greater acceptance in different moments, but not wanting acceptance of myself to be conditional
Mm-hmm.
on a specific number, on a specific, achievement, of wanting to have that unconditional acceptance or self-compassion all the time just because I'm a person who exists in the world.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the things that, like, I love that we're talking about this because that acceptance, and one of the things that I enjoyed being your friend and chose to be your friend before you chose to be my friend. Like, is because I remember one day we were walking our dogs around the Clearview. Um and I think like Hazel was doing something and we were both kind of like, I was like, why does Hazel do? I think she was eating dog poop or something. And I was like, why is Hazel like eating other dogs' poop? And you were all like, let her be herself. Why are you even like, let her be who she wants to be? Let her be herself. And that was one of the things. And I think that's the other thing about you, where I'm going to say, if you can repeat to yourself as much, is let yourself be yourself. Let your body be itself. Like, you take care
Yeah.
of your body. You do. You're very loving to your body. You just visually don't let your body be itself.
Yeah. And I love that, like thinking about it through that way of like letting it be itself. And that's what's needed, right? And like the different ways that we do that, like one is by like taking care, and the other thing is like verbally, what we see, how we see it. And
Mhm.
so this is, I think, such an important skill as we're thinking about our values, is like, even as we've been talking, like we've been in the field for like a decade and we're still trying to figure out what's that value, like we still need that. And so this is one of those things, like it's really hard sometimes on your own to really think through what your value is and what it isn't, and to really put a name to it. But as soon as we get that label, it's a lot easier
Yeah.
to like, one of my colleagues used to say, like, you have to like name it to tame it. And it's a lot easier to like figure out how to talk about something when you have a label for it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things when people ask me like, how important is therapy? Like, is it a necessity? One of the things that I always say is like, first of all, it depends on what you're going in for. But no matter what, it's like checking in at the doctor and doing a checkup. And sometimes with life, you're like shifting, so much is happening, people's perceptions and people's ideas of you, especially like you have friends and families always wanting different things for you. And then you're like, I don't know if I want that. So going into space, telling someone and having someone help put those puzzle pieces together and say, well, it seems like this is one of your values. So what do you think about that? And then being able to take that and then go and then
Yeah.
come back. Like, therapy is helpful in that way, that you have someone outside of your life helping
Mhm.
you put the puzzle pieces that you're like, does this fit here? And you're like, that kind of, but this one fits better. Or yeah, that totally fits there. It's a necessity.
It is.
And when I have therapist friends like you, this is what we do. We create
Yeah,
conversations every Thursday.
exactly. Well, I think that's it for this Thursday.
And that is it for this Thursday. I appreciate us talking about values, actually. And I hope everyone that listened to our conversation got something out of it. Feel free to leave us comments, ask us questions, tell us whatever you need or want us to talk about. We will gladly go into those conversations for you guys. And hope you guys enjoyed another episode of Off the Clock Conversations with Lili and Lauren.
Happy Thursday.